Do I think it's gonna be more than 300? Yeah, really want to read it this year. I say that about everything, but we'll see. Books and books and books and books and books. This took a lot out of me. I have a lot of books, and today you can join me as I work out how many I have, because I have no idea. Today we're going to count how many books I've got, sort them into genre, work out how many of them I've actually read. In a future video, I'm going to be sorting them onto my bookshelves to make them look beautiful. So subscribe if you want to follow along. First off, I'm going to guess how many books I own. And I'm going to do ebooks as one category and physical books as another. Physical books is gonna be in the hundreds. I don't know how many hundreds. Do I think it's gonna be more than 300? Yeah. And for physicals, I'm gonna say 344. I'm gonna say I've read 15%. I need to write this down before I forget. Also, I just wanna add that a lot that I have read and either not liked or I know I'm not gonna read them again, I've donated and passed them on. Let's go look at the books. That's what I keep looking at. They're staring at me up over there in my cupboard, and we're gonna go over there now. So let's go. The vacuum cleaner is currently weighing down these 3 boxes of books, plus this one, plus all of these, plus I'm sure I have more somewhere. Let's start with the books up there, which I got recently from some op shops. By the way, when I talk about sorting these into genre, I'm also thinking about my own genres or subgenres that make sense to me that I want to use. A very cool edition of some Oscar Wilde, that's classic. An illustrated edition of Jane Eyre. Very emo, very demure. Classic. This I found recently, published in 1979. Beautiful, but wait for it. Oop. Ta-da! This is beautiful, and I found it in a street library. I don't know what to put this as. I'm gonna put it as its own thing for now. Historical fiction, thriller, don't know. I'm gonna teach you a trick that if you have a book and you're not sure what genre it is, or you want to know more about it, or you just want to get it up straight away onto Goodreads or the StoryGraph, you can scan the barcode at the back, or Goodreads, I click on the little camera, and then I'm gonna scan the barcode because I want to know what genre this is. I have to say, maybe I'll try this on the StoryGraph, because you have to scroll down basically to the bottom of the page for Goodreads to show you the genres that a book is. This is young adult, middle grade, and historical. Okay, put that in the middle grade / young adult section that doesn't exist yet, but now it does. Oh, okay. This is going to go in animal stories. I know that's not a proper section, but Plague Dogs by the same person, Richard Adams, who did Watership Down with the rabbits. There's already an injured dog on the front. I'm definitely going to cry. Why do I do this to myself? It's like Black Beauty all over again. Ooh, The Hate You Give / Thug. Haven't read this, really want to. I think this would be young adult, is it? Let's try StoryGraph this time. Let's see if it's better. That one was quicker than Goodreads. 444 pages. Oh, and it comes up with the genre straight away. Okay, this is gonna be my first proper like young adult pile. I'm gonna say this one's middle grade. Well, maybe it's the in between middle grade and young adult. I can put things where I want them. All right, here's the box of stuff. Nice spine, middle grade, classic dark academia. For an essay, I'm gonna classify as dark academia from what I know about it. Classic, or new classic, Greek mythology adaptation, informative Greek mythology, and poetry about Greek mythology. How are these categories gonna work? That's like 3 in 1. I didn't get far in box number 1, but this is box number 2. This is the current state of events. boxes discarded over there. My piles are not piling the way that I wish. I just spent what felt like an age sorting books into piles and scanning them. I also feel like my books that I've got here don't really reflect my reading style or taste that much. Part of that is because most of them, from what I can tell, I haven't actually read. And a lot of them are kind of random books that I've picked up that I've never heard of, which is great because I love hearing about books that aren't in the echo chamber of Book Talk or whatever. But then when I look at the covers, I can't really remember what they're about. I think I have fewer books than I guessed. I still have more upstairs. Let's keep going. Hi, I'm back. It's been a few days since I went through my books and created a big mess. I'm going to sort out within the genres how many books I've read and how many I haven't. I also wanted to show you a pile of books that I'm yet to sort out / ones that just have a bit of a story about them. Books and books and books and books and books. Oh, far out. Oh my God. I refuse to pick up that pile again. Just for the sake of transparency, I picked up 2 more books today. Yeah, this book that I picked up, I've been wanting to read for a while, and I've heard some people who like thrillers say that this is one of the ones that sticks with you. This is His Bloody Project by Graham McCrae Burnett, set in the 1800s. So it says the year is wow, I can't read. The year is 1869. A brutal triple murder in a remote community in the Scottish Highlands leads to the arrest of a young man by the name of Roderick McCrae. Funny, sharing the name. It's described as a mesmerizing literary thriller. The other book I picked up today is also a thriller, and it's called The Family Doctor by Deborah Oswald. The main character is a doctor called Paula, and she is devastated because her best friend and the best friend's children were murdered by their estranged father / husband. Not long after, a patient with suspicious injuries brings her anxious young son into Paula's surgery. The woman admits that her husband hurts her, but she's terrified to leave him for fear of escalating the violence. On the front it says, must she take a life to save a life? And I'm wondering if the abusive husband in this becomes a patient at the hospital. Next is a book I picked up recently that I'd never heard of before. It's by Philip Roth called The Human Stain. The main character has an interesting name, Coleman Silk. Has a secret, but it's not the secret of his affair at 71 with a woman half his age. And it's not the secret of his alleged racism, which provoked the college witch hunt that cost him his job. Coleman's secret is deeper and lies at the very core of who he is, and he has kept it hidden from everyone for 50 years. Set in 1998 with the backdrop of the impeachment of a president, The Human Stain shows us an America where conflicting moralities and ideological divisions result in public denunciations and houndings, and where innocence is not always a good enough excuse. Thought it sounded interesting. This was written in 2000 or published in 2000. It kind of sounds very much like the early stages of cancel culture. According to Goodreads, ta-da, magic, it's just kind of contemporary literary fiction, but I'm gonna say dark academia. On the pile it goes. Jasper Jones. I read this maybe almost a decade ago and I really liked it, but I had issues with the fact that the chapters were really long. It's kind of got mystery. It's also historical, 1960s, and it is literary in terms of the commentary on racism in Australia and assumptions and prejudice and things like that. Let me consult Goodreads. Yet again. Young adult fiction, mystery, historical fiction, Australia coming of age, contemporary, historical, realistic fiction. What do I put this as? I feel like historical fiction, even though the themes, but then maybe does that make it literary / classic even, because the themes are still relevant even though it is historical. I'm gonna say historical. Oh, this one recently picked up at a street library and it's been recommended to me so many times. Colleagues, family members, friends My understanding is this is set in the 1960s about a woman in STEM. Doors for opportunity for her are so closed off because she is a woman. Themes that persevere into the current times. I feel like this is a literary but also historical, but I'm going to put it in historical as well, like Jasper Jones. Frankenstein, the first science fiction by Mary Shelley, or Mary Shelley Wollstonecraft, maybe I should say. Mary Wollstonecraft Shelley, sorry. Even though it is the first work of science fiction, I associate it more with classics and that kind of almost dark gothic era. I started actually reading this earlier this year in January because my housemate and I were going to read it together. But then we had to move house, so it didn't happen. I didn't get very far. I only got like 30 pages in. Science fiction comes in many forms, but this definitely going on the classics pile. Yet another OG classic, Carmilla, kind of the first work of vampire fiction, even before Dracula. It was 26 years before Dracula, written by Joseph Sheridan Le Fanu. I wanted to read this last year for my 1 week of reading Halloweeny books challenge, but it ended up coming a bit late in the mail for that. So I really want to read it this year. I say that about everything, but we'll see. I would really like to read this and Dracula in a short period of time together. I don't have a copy of Dracula, but that's because every time I go to look, they have like 20 different editions at the shop and I go, I'm not going to read it right now, so maybe I should save my pennies. Another one I got recently, it was funny because I contemplated spending $35 or whatever on this paperback and I thought, oh no, not right now. And then fortuitously, it was there. This one, the Goodreads thriller mystery genre book of the year prize last year. It's about a family called the Van Laars. 14 years in the past, one of their children went missing and was never found. And so now another child of the family has gone missing. I'm surprised that I haven't heard more people talk about it, so I'm interested to form my own opinions. Funnily enough, I got these two books about artists on the same day. One is called The Artist's Wife and the other is called The Swan Thieves. I really like painted covers. Psychiatrist Andrew Marlowe has a perfectly ordered life. Solitary perhaps, but full of devotion to his profession and the painting hobby he loves. This order is destroyed when renowned painter Robert Oliver attacks a canvas in the National Gallery of Art and becomes his patient. Desperate to understand the secret that torments this genius, Marlowe embarks on a journey that leads him into the lives of the women closest to Oliver and a tragedy at the heart of fresh impressionism. It's giving art history, love it. According to the chapter titles, it's from different people's points of view. Historical fiction and mystery with some romance from the look of it. So historical fiction it goes. I'm surprised that my thriller, mystery, suspense kind of piles look the same height as my historical fiction because in my head I don't read a lot of historical fiction. But maybe I don't, but I just collect it. I don't know how to say her name. Myfanwy? It's got a lot of Y's. Myfanwy Griffin, a young English barrister, falls in love with and marries Australian artist Tom Block in London. For many years, she is content to play the roles of muse and mother. But when she decides to reclaim her career, she discovers that there is a special price to pay in being married to a famous man, a man who believes that his talents give him the right to sidestep his responsibilities. So it got only 4 ratings. 3 of those ratings were 2 stars and 1 rating was 3 stars. This makes me want to read it more because I want to see what's going on. Historical fiction, did we say? I didn't say. It doesn't even have any genres on Goodreads. It hasn't even got labels. Ooh, mystery, mysterious. Historical fiction. From another street library, I picked up House of Hollow, which looks like it hasn't been touched. It looks pristine. Fantasy, horror, young adult, mystery, thriller, paranormal, magical, realism, mystery, thriller, fiction. In my head, I almost have a kind of haunted mansion, gothic genre that could be fantasy or not, depending what's going on, like House of Hollow, Mexican gothic, that T. Kingfisher book I read last year, I'll put up here, and Rebecca by Daphne du Maurier, but I I haven't really got a pile with those books because I don't have them all. So I'm going to put this in fantasy. And next up is Rebecca. This is one of my mum's favourite books, and I did see the movie that came out a few years ago. I've kind of forgotten it, but I remember it had good twists. It had some atmosphere of the creepy haunted house. Definitely going in my classics pile. Next is a 1965 edition of Wuthering Heights by Emily Bronte, which I have never read. In my head, I get this and Jane Eyre confused all the time. I do know the difference, but to me they give the same energy, but I haven't actually read either of them, so I'm sure that I could be very wrong. But I just love when I find a classic book that I want to read at some point, but I find an interesting edition. I thought this one was really pretty. I like the painterly kind of style. I could tell it was old as well based on the penguin design. Classics pile. Last one on this pile, a very chunky The Goldfinch by Donna Tartt, who wrote The Secret History, which I loved. This is definitely a dark academia kind of book. I really like when the text is a bit larger and spread out nicely on the page, not just all crunched in. I saw in a local Facebook group that someone was moving house and they had a whole bunch of books they were getting rid of. So 3, beautiful, chunky, nice. Next is the tricky job of actually using my brain to count. Some of my piles that I've arranged them into are a bit random and make sense to me. I may rearrange them. I also kind of thought I'd have more graphic novels than I do. And I thought I had more poetry than I do. I have less fantasy than I thought I would. All right, let's get down and have a look. 1, 2, 3 piles at the back are historical fiction. These next 1, 2, 3 piles are thriller, mystery, suspense. Over there, that's my classics pile. Folklore, fairy tale, twisted tales. Over here is like my memoirs kind of pile. Miscellaneous self-help. This one I've seen a lot of people reading recently. The Artist's Way, I really want to read as a very creative person. It recommends and discusses 50 different books by authors of colour. There's some recommendations in this that I want to actually get for myself and read. Enigmas. I love a brain puzzle and a riddle. That's all kind of non-fiction-y stuff. I've got some more over. Here, the history of Rome. Here I've got my mythology corner. I've got my mythical creatures book that I got recently in Melbourne. These books I love. I've read the Egyptian myths one and the Greek myths. I haven't read the Norse myths one yet. And my best friend gave me this for my birthday, which was really nice. These books are great. Great for kids, great for adults who want more of an introduction into these mythologies. I just love the illustration style and how the information is presented. Just look, how beautiful is that? This super chunky mythology book I've had, oh my gosh, since I was a teenager. I've got arty books over here. I went to this exhibition last year and it was amazing. My poetry pile's fallen over. This is by Lena Norms. It was only sort of a limited print run, and this includes one of my favourite poems. I tried to teach myself to remember it. Look at that, because it's autumn right now. Short stories. Twilight, Twilight, Twilight. This is the edition I've had since I was, 14? It's in a pile of its own. I did used to have the other ones, but got rid of them. I was like, I'll never read these again. Joke's on me, I read them all last year and it was a wild ride. My fantasy pile, which is not very big. I'm not much of a fantasy reader now, which kind of makes me sad. These are my graphic novels, which I was surprised I didn't have more of. This I bought recently from Amplify Books in Melbourne, which is a great bookshop if you're there. They're also online. The Tea Dragon Society books are so cute. Cottagecore vibes. There's a lot about community and belonging. I feel like this should also go in fantasy maybe. It is a graphic novel, but it is pretty thick and mostly writing, so I'm going to add it maybe to fantasy. Oh no, I actually want it. I want it there. This is my very teeny tiny sci-fi pile. Orbital, A Psalm for the Wild Built, and The Wild Robot. Loved The Wild Robot, just read it recently. My beautiful Hunger Games. Even though it kind of crosses a few different genres, I'm going to count this as science fiction, even though yes, it's more dystopian to my head, but I don't have that as its own genre. Middle grade and young adult. Again, kind of surprised that isn't bigger. Followed behind by my dark academia pile. The Secret History is hidden under there. Hold up. These are young adult that I'm also going to add to that pile. These are my Greek myth retellings that are fiction. Here I've got the Odyssey, Metamorphoses, Hesiod's, Theogony. They kind of overlap, but they're not like fictional retellings like these. They're in their own separate pile, but maybe I should add them with my mythology pile. Would make more sense, but they're really big and these are not. This one, I don't know what I'm really gonna consider it because it's kind of self-help, but it's got historical figures in it. So yeah, I don't know. Contemporary literary fiction, and then more like historical sort of literary. Have I read any of those books? I think not. I haven't even counted yet. I've literally just been talking about them. So let's count. I am surrounded by books. I feel like this took a lot out of me. I've written down how many I have in each category. I've not read a lot. So back to my original estimations that I had 344 physical books, and I thought I would have read about 15% of them. I will start by saying that I have approximately, I think it's more than this, but approximately 64 children's books. I'm kind of counting them separately because that relates a lot to my work. My largest category, apart from that, which I assumed would be the case, is thriller and mystery with 43 books, of which I've read 3. I'm ashamed. A lot of them, I've gotten them from the library, and some I have on my Kindle as well. Thriller and mystery, 43. Historical fiction, 37 books, of which I've read 4.5. When I say 4.5, I mean I've read The Book Thief and Jasper Jones and the Guernsey Literary and Potato Peel Pie Society and The Bear and the Nightingale, but I only got about halfway through She Who Became the Sun. And the next largest category was what I've called Ancient World. All my books on mythology, retellings, and informative books about mythology / ancient history. It all kind of is related, and some of it was poetry, so I put that all together. Shortly followed by 25 non-fiction books that included memoirs, self-help, and random topics like art. I had 15 classics, 15 middle grade and young adult, 15 literary fiction including contemporary, and 15 fantasy books, 11 fairy tales and folklore books, 8 graphic novels, 7 dark academia books, 6 sci-fi novels, 6 poetry books, and then kind of around 7-ish books to unhaul. So it's time to calculate all of this. I'm sure I have more books somewhere that aren't here, but I don't know where they would be. Maybe I got rid of them and forgot. 27 plus 15. The stats are in. In total, I have 293. It's less than what I thought. If I take out the children's books, it's 229. So out of the 229, I'm gonna work out what percentage of them I've read. Ooh! It's more. I've read basically a quarter, 24%. 24% of the physical books I've owned, I've read. I'm quite happy with that, actually. I was looking at this going, that looks dire. But no, it's actually better than I thought. Whew. Thanks for joining me. In a future video, I will be going through these a little bit more and arranging them. I'm done for today. Please join me next time. Have a lovely day. All the best. Like and subscribe.